G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, and today I'm joined by Algared, and the mysterious voice in the void today is IndianFeather. How you doing, man?
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? And thank you very much for everything that y'all have done.
Cool. So, we have some interesting things today with these fleets, so I'll kick it straight over and we'll kick the discussion off. So basically, this is the fleet that Indian came to us with. And he kind of told us he wanted to experience as much gameplay as possible. Anything else would you like to add to that, Algared, that you would...
No, pretty much it. He did have a couple of packs that we also have to work with, and so
work around, yep, too.
So let's have a look at his fleet, I suppose, and work out what was the thinking behind those ships.
So what was these 4 tumbrils for? And they're all the same thing.
Tokens.
Yeah. So they're LTI tokens. Yep.
Just the LTI tokens.
Yep.
Dragonfly was in a pack, and I was saving it for an LTI token as well.
The Rock?
Mining. It came in a pack with the Cutlass Black. It was the
rock and roll pack. Yep.
Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah. Same thing with the Prospector. Just you wanted to do mining.
Mining.
Yep. The Cutlass.
General purpose, general daily driver was my original.
Freelancer Dur and Freelancer Max.
Right. I had each one of those because the Max has more cargo, and the Dur has more about exploration. And I like the Dur because it has that more exploration type, and it had a couple extra scanners, is my understanding.
Yeah. The Vulture, Vulcan, not Vulture, Vulcan.
It was in a pack, and I was planning on using it as a CCI or a CCU token as well.
Yep. The Medivac.
2-person and medical.
Right. Okay, the Vulture.
1-person and salvage, which is my favorite, by the way.
The MSR, or Mercury Star Runner.
Somewhat of a daily driver, but it really spoke to me when they first came out with it. It really spoke to me. There was something about it, and it was the only thing that I've gone through and done just an insta-buy. It was the insta-buy. They did an awesome job at selling it to me.
Do you often hear voices from ships? I can't say I do. Algared, have you heard any voices from your ships?
Well, you know that I'm crazy, so
yeah, probably more than once or twice then. Right. The Mole. More mining.
Yeah, just mining. The least. Well, actually, sorry. The Prospector's the least. But a couple of people upgrade from the Prospector.
So I'm just going to try and fix this on the fly. Keep going. So the next one would be the whole.
the holes.
The
whole B and the whole C.
Yeah, whole B and
they
whole
were
C.
just simply cargo hauling.
Yep.
Nothing more to them.
Yep. And the Carrack.
Exploration, which is my number 2 most favorite. And
last but not least,
it wasn't that expensive, and it seemed like a really good ship to grab.
Yep. And last but not least,
the Endeavour. Yeah, sorry, I had a bit of indigestion. Sorry, yeah, the Endeavour. Thanks.
The Endeavour, originally I had put that in there because of recommendations from you guys, and it seems like there's a lot of gameplay in that thing. So, and that's a lot of what my fleet, but also what I want, is a lot of gameplay.
Yep.
Right, so that's where he kind of started from, but we had a fair bit of untangle with this one. So he had what was it called? An entrepreneur pack was the one, wasn't it?
The entrepreneur pack.
And we just Upton told him to melt that, and so he literally melted it on the spot. And we realized we were dealing with someone that was very literal. We meant, like, you should melt that because it's not that
Yep.
great. And he just melted it right in front of us. And so, yeah, so we went on from...
hang on. Don't
Yeah,
melt
hang on,
anything else.
settle down. Control yourself. Like, it was just like, whoa, what are you doing? And
No
so...
hesitation.
No hesitation,
hesitation
just
on
did
that
it.
one.
So I was very tempted to
Yep.
say go jump off a cliff or something like that, just to see if it would work. But yeah, harsh. But like, just as, like if someone's going to do everything you say, like you'll test the theory.
Yeah,
But
true. You've
yeah.
got to
So
test the theory when it's there. But anyway,
so this is his other pack that he had. He also just to bring you guys up to speed, he also had a freestanding Endeavour and a freestanding Mercury STAR-Runner. So the only thing that's going to survive the chopping block is the Mercury STAR-Runner and this pack. Everything else is being melted. The reason why we're showing you this and not the Mercury STAR-Runner is you can obviously see there the Terrapin's become an Apollo Medivac, and the what ship? Oh god, I've forgotten what the other one was. Algared.
The
Tumbrel. No, it was it was a Tumbrel
sorry.
RN.
The Tumbrel.
RN.
Yeah, the Tumbrel's got changed, and the Terrapin got changed.
Yeah, so and that's become the Medivac and the Cutlass Raid. So that and after all that stuff was melted, and we had $2,960 to play with, so to speak, in credit. And this is what me and Algared came up with. Now, I will say off the bat, this does not break even. We had many discussions going back and forth with Indian in regards to gameplay and stuff like that, and there was 3 or 4 ships that we kept cycling through, and in the end I kind of just said, well, let's just make this short and sweet. Are you happy to put more money into the game and we'll just get all of them? And he said yes. So
and the question was also, how much more money are you willing to put in as well?
Yeah, and I think, what was it, $930, Algared, was the...
930 was the amount that we worked out we'd need to get that particular fleet added to what he already had.
Yeah, and so what that does is it basically allows Algared and I to take things so the ships that are... So the Mercury STAR-Runner survives, but things like the Endeavour melts, and that gets moved into the pack. So the Crucible gets moved into the pack, the Reclaimer gets moved into the pack, and the BMM, the Medivac in the pack gets to... So all those ships except the Kraken and the Polaris, basically, and the Mercury STAR-Runner get pushed into that pack. And there were some very interesting things. So we'll go through these ships individually, and I think Algared and I will talk about the interesting things as we talk about them, because one that just blew me and Algared away straight out of the water was why the hell he didn't have a Reclaimer. But I digress. So Algared, do we even need to talk about STAR-Runner, because he already had the STAR-Runner? I think we can.
He already had the STAR-Runner, and when I asked him what are your must-have ships, the STAR-Runner was the must-have ship. So, or one of the must-have ships that he had. So that it stays, no question.
Yep. And at one point, I remember we were talking about the Medivac, and I said, well, if you had to pick between the two, he picked this. So this is definitely going to be his daily driver. And you really value this ship, don't you, Indian?
Yes, I do.
Again, when we're talking gameplay, I think anyone that watches the show regularly will tell you, like I've heard people think we're in a cult over this ship at this point, but the sheer amount of gameplay off this ship is nuts. And someone, Edison Trent, reminded us today while we're in the Discord that they've said several times that ships are going to generally be priced off their gameplay. Well, if that's the case, this is probably more reinforcement to what we've been saying previously. The ship is going to increase in price. Anything you would like to add, Algared?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I know people claim that we're the cult of the Endeavour. I personally think that's wrong. I personally think we're the cult of the Endeavour and the Crucible, but that's another story.
Well, you tell us about the Crucible, because you and I had to fight a little bit for this one today, didn't we? A little bit, but after we convinced him, I think he came around when he realised the benefits, so to speak. So I'll let you.
So the Crucible, top-end rearm, refuel, repair ship. When we were talking to Feather, one of the things he was saying is he really likes the salvage, and both Execute and I really think that the Crucible dovetails and synergizes really well with salvage. You salvage a ship, you get broken components, you can repair them in the Crucible.
Yeah.
It's just a ship that really seems to work well, and I actually think, and I'm pretty certain Execute will agree with me, this is probably the second most undervalued ship in the game, apart from the Endeavour.
100%
And I think it's
agree.
probably become the first because we've sold the Endeavour so much.
Yeah. No, I do 100% agree with you, Algared. It is, I think it's one of the least purchased ships in the game. So while the Endeavour still got purchased really well, and this doesn't quite have as much gameplay as the Endeavour, it's really undervalued gameplay, and because of that, it's also purchased even less. But we'll bring that back around when we talk around the Kraken, huh? And we'll kind of
Yeah,
show how we
but
kind of convinced Indian that this is a ship that he should potentially have, and especially when you're trying to build a fleet that's got as much gameplay as possible. So I think the Kraken we've talked about a lot, but I'll go over it quickly. One of the reasons this is one of the best value ships in the game is on a per dollar value. God, I'm dragging hard to trying to get this across.
yeah,
At an AUC to US dollar value, this is the number one value ship in the game. But when you also add into the fact that it's got so many different gameplay elements like cargo, the medical bay, all those modules on the bottom of it, we don't know what they're going to do yet, but they're obviously going to all add different gameplay. The best exploring ship in the game. It's got a little hangar on it, blah, blah, blah. There's just so much added packed in there. This is
uh,
like, if you only brought one ship, if I
this
could
is
only
it.
buy one ship, this is the one ship I would buy because it's so good value. And if I'm talking purely bang for buck, not my personal taste, and everyone's got personal taste, so that obviously makes the carrot not the best ship for everyone to buy. So don't go around and tell everyone that's the best ship to buy. I'm just saying, purely on a bang for buck basis, this is the best value ship in the game currently.
At present. But
At present, yeah.
it is, in terms of what Fifa had as well, he had the 2948 Explorer pack, which
Yes.
means he got that the Carrack and the other ships basically for the cost for the Carrack. So it made upgrading all the other ships in that pack significantly, or upgrading to the other ships that we put in that pack significantly cheaper. And the Carrack also does come with a Pisces and an Ursa rover. So
Yeah.
it just adds to the value of a Carrack, I think. So
I actually added the Pisces on.
you
It
did
You
was an
did, but we
add-on.
take we.
Yes.
Okay, but it doesn't matter.
he did.
That's superfluous now. We've
Yep.
already worked through all that. Okay, so this was one of the ones that cost some extra money to get, the Polaris, but it kind of added some severely lacking combat to his fleet. And me and Algrid will probably both state that this is probably the best value capital / Corvette. I don't know how to word that, Algrid. How would you word that?
I would say it's the best value Corvette in game. You
Yeah.
compare it to the
What about
Nautilus, the Hammerhead, and the Gunboat, the Perseus,
what
and
about
cost and
what about
gameplay, it leaves them for dead.
Sorry. What about would you? I would also call it the best value capital because it's the smallest. It'll be the cheapest to run, smallest crew, etc., etc. Do you agree with that, or do you
Uh,
change that?
well, cheapest, smallest to run. I don't think it does as much as, say, an Idris would do.
Agreed.
When I think of doing Star Trek and across the universe, I think Idris. I don't think Polaris. But in terms of crew requirements and value and gameplay, it's certainly the best capital ship, I suppose, to own. And it's not costing you over $1,000. So
would we call it a cheap man's Idris? Would we agree on that? I think we can agree on that.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think that's a fair call for it. It's a cheap man's
Yeah.
Idris. It does have a
Yeah.
place for a hangar. But yeah, that's probably a fair call.
Yeah. So those of you that watch the show would know that Reclaimer is still probably my favorite ship in the game. He
And this
was
one threw us both a blinder because we're
Yeah.
going, why don't you have one?
Yeah. So he had
Well, and
we struggled to
let
cut.
me
Hang on.
explain it a little bit because the main reason that I didn't get one was because crew requirement. I felt I was really worried, and I still am very worried that some of these bigger ships will take crew that I may or may not have.
But one of the things, as we're talking through that, but we said is, look, when you look at the crew requirements of even the Polaris at the moment, the Polaris is only 6 to 14 people. The reclaimer, pilot, claw operator, drone operators, engineer, you're still looking at 4 people. And when you're looking at other ships, 3 to 4 people. So we actually expect, and I actually expect, that it'll be fairly easy to get people to come on and work on ships. There'll be a lot of people who only have Auroras who start off. And the reputation system is going to work to ensure that both you and your crew are trying to do the best by each other. Because if you get a bad reputation by the rating system, you're going to find it harder to work with others.
And we talked quite a bit about reputation as well. And reputation is going to be a big thing in this game.
Not to mention that the fact that if you want any of the starting ships like the Vulture, because that's what I was trying to say at the start. He was a real big fan of the Vulture and really adamant that he wanted to keep it. And like as we said, if you've got a bigger version ship, you can very easily earn one under. And if you are really stressing that you want to work on your own, at least initially, you can still take a ship like a ship like a reclaimer, and you can technically solo that first mission, and that'll earn you enough money to go buy a Vulture free and clear, pretty much. And that's the whole kind of methodology. And as we get onto the Kraken and some bigger ships, that's the whole methodology behind all this. So,
and when we were talking, what ships are your must-have ships? Initially, it was the Starfarer, the Star Runner, and then the Vulture. And as we looked at it, and as he had the Vulture and the Mole, and as we looked at it, we really felt that he was probably better off going for the Reclaimer, mainly because even though it's a massive, huge ship, it's like the Nostromo in Aliens, massive, huge ship. But the crew was fairly small, and that's the same with this one.
I think it's only 5 for the Reclaimer. So yeah, same. I'll let you talk about the Banner Merchantman. I would go for it.
Banner Merchantman, probably currently the best size for carrying cargo. As opposed to the hulls, it carries the cargo internally. It's alien, so it looks sweet anyway. It's also got the markets, and the fact that it's got last we heard was 3 stalls, which means you can actually use it with your salvage stuff. If you salvage stuff and then repair it in your crucible, you can actually then sell it in your market. You can also haul cargo. Again, BMM, I think, synergizes really well with salvage and repair.
Yeah. So all those economic-based ships that he's got there can sell shit at the Banner Merchantman. And that kind of relates a little bit to the Kraken. So just before we move on for the Banner Merchantman, I'm going to say he can also now purchase a privateer upgrade in-game for the Kraken, and also get that store synergy going as well in the Kraken as well if he wishes to. So that gives him some more versatility. All right, so the Kraken itself, the whole reason he had so much credit, we wanted him to get one big ship because then it sets him up completely, and he can use that to earn everything else underneath. So whether he wants more gameplay from something like a Pioneer, or he wants to get that Vulture, or he wants to get his Cutlass back, his Med back, any of those ships that he had, he can use a ship like this to get it back. He was really worried about finding people. He already belongs to an org. Once we kind of went through how the rating system was going to work with people, I really feel that you were at a much better place, but you seem to be not as well as I thought. So we'll if you are, we'll talk to you more about that afterwards. But I guarantee you, and I think people will tell you in the comments as well, if you have a Kraken, people are going to come to you. So I'll actually ask that in the comments, guys. Do you think with a fleet like this, he's going to have trouble finding people to play with? And then you can come and read the comments, and let's see what everyone else says for that. So I think a big audience telling you that will probably hopefully put you a little bit more at ease. So let's just see what people say. Algared, is there anything you'd like to say about the Kraken, mate?
At the moment, no. It generally gives you, well, it is actually a floating space station. It's probably there's 2 floating space stations that we've got in game that players can own and control at the moment. One is the Endeavour. You guys all know what we think about the Endeavour. The second one is the Kraken.
Yeah.
And the Kraken is, because it has hangers, it's a repair shop. It's a refuel shop, drawing from the suppliers and you put it above a planet like Daymar. If you've got a settlement down there, you put that up there. You've now got a space station above Daymar. So it is a really, really good ship to have if you're looking at that type of gameplay.
You can change the background. I just found something out.
Dude, the blue looked really cool.
All right, sorry, settle down. So what I was just going to add with the Kraken is this kind of whole fleet was kind of built around that Kraken because, like Algared's alluding to, they're kind of like a space station, but you can use that as the home base and then go out with these other ships, and you've got the Polaris to help cover it. You've kind of got your repair, your refuel, your salvage, your exploration. It's just got all that gameplay in a base that he can live in the Kraken.
And one of the other reasons was the fact that when we looked at the credits that were available and the gameplay that he was after,
yeah,
we could get most of the gameplay he was after, and we still had.
I think every single ship besides I think it was the Polaris and the Crucible, he had $70 left over.
Yep.
And so basically at the time, and that's because he was still a bit reluctant on the Crucible at that time, and and then as I said before, we asked him, "Do you just want to get all of them?" And it went from there.
And the last ship
is the Orion, and you saw he had the Brock there, the Mole, and the Prospector. It just made sense to combine all those and just bite the bullet and get the big baby, and take that. And again, if you want to go back to the Prospector, the Rock, the Mole, or any other mining vessels that creep up along the time, use this to earn them and go that way. It really cannot be underestimated how much easier it is going to be to earn down than it is to earn up.
Yep. And while the Orion does have more than one or two crew, it is again a bit like the Reclaimer. It's a big Nostromo style ship.
Yeah.
A lot of that is taken up with refinery and ore storage. It has a fairly small crew. It will be fairly easy to, I think, to crew
from memory.
And that also includes turrets, and so you double up on those. You could probably cut it down. But I think both the Orion and the Reclaimer are really good industrial ships to own, and they give you that ability to earn credits, which will enable you to earn the smaller ships down the line. Yeah. And the other thing, while we wait for ships like the Orion, you do get the mining ships to play with at the moment anyway. So
so he'll get his mole back and things like that as well. This was a very difficult one because he'd already spent a bit of money, and we could literally get him what he wanted for cheaper, but he also wanted more gameplay. So it was a real toss between, like, he either had too much to spend or not enough to spend, and there was just all these things that were up in the air. And then when it kind of came for me, the point was when I just kind of said, well, are you happy just to put more money in? Like it doesn't matter how much. And when he said yes, then it just became a lot easier after that for me. I don't know about you, Algared, but that seemed to be the turning point for me.
So to say, are you willing to put more in? How much you're willing to put in, and then getting that ballpark figure and saying, okay, if you want to get these, this is what you'd need to do. The other options were, don't get them and scale down, but.
And he can always do that. He can always change it because now he's just got the plan, and he can either stick to the plan that we've helped him with, or he can he can cut the Polaris, or he can cut the Crucible, or he can change the Orion or whatever. He can now chop and choose because he's gone from this, which was just a whole bunch of small little ships, like half the fleet literally, to a way more condensed thing. Like, and he had, like, if you look here, you can see he's got the same functions stacked up. He's got like two Hull series ships. He's got a Dur and a Carrack. He's got lots of little starters. Yeah, like little, like the Vulture, the Prospector, the Medvac, and the Vulture, all those little advanced starters. When he also has like even the Medvac and the Endeavor, there was just this stacking up of Prospector Mole. It goes on and on. Where he's taking, you can see the professions. He wants all those different gameplay, but he's almost hedged his bets where he's going, I'm going to double down on mining and get 2 mining, 2 cargo, 2 medvacs. Like, and so rather than doing that and getting all the medium and smalls, we've just got him to get all the capitals. And so he can take those capitals now and earn the smaller ones and underneath in a much easier fashion.
Yep. Now, we were talking about the Crucible a bit earlier, and one of the things that was raised in the discussion we were having is the repair of the capital ships and the big ships. And
oh yes, Sue, I forgot about that. Sorry, we should have talked about that when I talked about the Kraken.
really does make a Crucible a must-have ship if you've got big ships.
100%.
Otherwise, they're dockyard jobs. They can't land them on a station. You can't, if there's no hangar for them, and you can't land them on a station, you can't repair them.
So some of those ships would be things like the we know for a fact that the Reclaimer now has to dock. So I'm almost expecting ships like potentially even the Banu Merchantman might be too big to land on space stations. It may not. I'm just saying it may. But definitely things like the Endeavor and the Kraken are not going to be able to land on stations. So one of the things I brought up at the top,
Ryan has never been able to land.
there you go. But what? Sorry, I'm trying to get to a point. When we were talking, I brought up the point about how Stanton has a shipyard in it, but Pyro does not. And I remember them talking about several times now where you may have to travel 2 or 3 systems to get to a system that actually has a star dock. So having a Crucible there so you don't have to travel 2 or 3 systems is going to be invaluable. I actually think in that case, unless you're going for a retrofit, most people would get a Crucible to come to them. Even if they're not a friendly one, so to speak, they would hire someone because it's just going to be so much more convenient. If you've got to go 3 systems over and 3 systems back, that's going to take you all day. So, and not to mention the fuel cost if you've got a really big capital ship. So, yeah. Have you got anything else you'd like to add, Algared?
No, I don't think so. I think talking about the Crucible, it is one of the most underrated ships, I think, in game.
Yeah.
People do often pew it. This is actually the cost of the Endeavor and the Crucible, guys. It's not just the Endeavor.
Yeah, we might have to do a video on the Crucible like we did the Endeavor at the end of last year, but I don't think it'll be somehow as popular. But we'll, we are looking at. We've had a few requests to go back and deep dive a lot of ships. So, and I think that might have came off the back of that Endeavor video. So we are looking at the possibility of starting a new series. We've been playing around with names, so we'll see if that happens. But yeah, I think we'll definitely get something like that off the ground. IndianFeather, are you kind of at least got a plan now? Do you feel more comfortable today than you did, say, yesterday, so to speak? And are you kind of happy going forward? So you feel like now you've got a direction to move in?
I definitely have a direction to move in. One of my biggest sticking points, so to speak, was the Crucible. It took me a little bit of convincing with the Crucible to convince me that that is it could be a very valuable ship in game. It took me a little bit of convincing, but I think that one will be pretty good once we get in game. Everything else on here, absolutely, 100% on board with everything else here. Certainly takes some doing to get there, because it'll take me Invictus and who knows whatever else to get to that point, to get to where this fleet is. Certainly a lot different than my smaller. So something that I will add is generally, yes, I have generally looked at single player type of ships because I worry that getting those extra people to play on my ships is going to be a little bit harder than normal. But I think that this will be an awesome fleet.
Well, we'll let people leave their comment and say like because we do get comments about we seem to hate on single player ships, but it's not because we're hating on them as a ship. We're hating on them because they're not good value. And if you can really get the idea of that you can take a big ship and very quickly earn a smaller one, once you understand how that works, you can get any ship you want, right? So that's why we try and set people up with a really big ship like a Kraken if they can afford it, because they can literally take that ship, earn money very quickly, and buy the exact ships they want, and repetitively. You cannot do it the other way. If you had 20 fighters that cost the same price as a Kraken, I guarantee you, in a month's time, the Kraken person's going to have way... This is after the game comes out, by the way, and I'm talking hypothetically. If you have a Kraken... you are going to work out with way more other ships in value than the person that has 20 fighters. It's just a simple fact of scale, and once you understand that concept, it's a no-brainer. And I'm interested to know how people that have watched this show a lot in the comments will respond. Algared, your closing thoughts.
The other thing I'm interested to know is, what are your thoughts on the Crucible? Are we leading him down a garden path? Are we mugging him in the alleyway, as I often say? Or are we giving him the good oil, leading him to the promised land?
And I'll add to that, would you like to see a show on the Crucible? I'll add to that. All right. Thank you for coming and joining us today, IndianFeather. I hope we helped you out.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. If you like this type of content, please leave a like. It really does help us out. Consider subscribing. And if you want to go that extra mile, consider joining us on Patreon. It helps us buy new gear and stuff like that. All right. He's been Algared. The voice in the void has been IndianFeather. And I've been Execute, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Take care. We're out of here.
Thank you.